Nehemiah is considered to be the last of the Old Testament historical books, and it basically chronicles the return, the last return, the third return of the Israelites to Jerusalem under the leadership of Nehemiah and Ezra. Nehemiah primarily being the leader of the whole rebuilding of the walls around Jerusalem, that whole initiative. And basically, it's a really, really fascinating book in that Nehemiah, he was cupbearer to the king of Persia. And then God basically set it upon his heart that he needs to go and help and rebuild this civilization of the Jews and of Jerusalem. And so he goes to the king in humility and out of, a genuine nature, and the king allows him to go and rebuild the walls. However, it's not that simple of a game. There is opposition to the building of the walls, the rebuilding of the walls rather, and Nehemiah and the people that he is building the walls for go through some serious adversity and through some trials and tribulations, and well, there's your premise, folks. I hope you like that. Yeah! Can you tell that I hate describing the premise of books because I want to be careful about saying certain things that need to be said and not saying certain other things that I don't think need to be said. And so I have little freakouts like the one I just had, a moment ago. However, now let's talk about just kind of Nehemiah, my overall thoughts on the book, other than what I already said, which is that it is fascinating. Nehemiah is a short book, and I think that there's a lot of lessons that can be learned specifically about leadership. Nehemiah, he is unlike our leaders today in that he stands his ground. When push comes to shove, when there's opposition, even deadly opposition to what he may be doing, he doesn't back down. He does not compromise. He just puts his faith in God and carries on with his work. And so I really thought that this whole book was an illustration of a righteous, just, and strong man. And it provides a striking picture of just what kind of mindset those sorts of people have. In fact, at one point, Nehemiah, he even goes against his own people. I mean, there is a conflict in chapter 5 of this book. The whole chapter is obviously worth reading because I brought it up. I'm not going to read the whole chapter, but I have it marked because basically, there are a lot of rich leaders in this community that Nehemiah is trying to help, and they are exploiting the poor that are living in Jerusalem and that are just trying to survive. And these rich men who are of the same, clan, they are exploiting their own folks, okay? And Nehemiah is like, hey, stop committing the sin of usury. Stop this. This is wrong. He even forgoes some of the privileges of his position in order to help the people, the poor people, the less fortunate people in his community. And I think that is, that's something really admirable because there's a lot of leaders that just, they not only exploit their position to the fullest and try to accumulate the most wealth and most power and most pleasure from their position, but most often there are people in positions of power that are afraid to upset other people in positions of power. And Nehemiah, he is not like either of those. He not only doesn't exploit his own position, and he actually is brave enough to go against people that are also powerful. Now, a specific passage I would really like to go over with you guys comes in Nehemiah chapter 6, verses 10 to 13. So this is going along with that opposition that I had already previously described, but this is the kind of fatal, deadly opposition. And so there are these guys, Tobiah and Sanballat and others, who are very upset about the whole rebuilding of the walls. And, it's kind of concerning to all the people that are rebuilding the walls and also to Nehemiah because they're threatening violence and they are they're not kidding around, it seems like. And so this passage comes off of the back of that kind of stuff happening, and it's pretty wild. So I'm just going to go ahead and read it, and then we will, of course, discuss it. One day I went to the house of Shemaiah, son of Delaiah, the son of Mehetabel, who was shut in at his home. He said, "Let us meet in the house of God, inside the temple, and let us close the temple doors, because men are coming to kill you. By night they are coming to kill you." But I said, "Should a man like me run away? Or should one like me go into the temple to save his life? I will not go." I realized that God had not sent him, but that he had prophesied against me, because Tobiah and Sanballat had hired him. He had been hired to intimidate me, so that I would commit a sin by doing this, and then they would give me a bad name to discredit me. So basically what happened right there is Nehemiah, his life was threatened, and in that spirit, he was, this friend of his, let's see, his name is Shemaiah, this friend of his, was basically like, "Hey dude, your life is threatened. You need to flee. You need to go into the house of God and take refuge there, because that way they won't be able to touch you. Cower to these people, because God clearly can't protect you outside of his house. You've got to go into the temple. You've got to hide there." And that's basically, that's what his friend was telling him. And Nehemiah, you could certainly, it's not like the Sanballat and Tobiah were messing around. They had harassed and threatened Nehemiah and his workers with death and all sorts of things, to the point where the workers were carrying weapons all the time. And so, being in that position, Nehemiah very well could have been, "Oh gosh, yes, I've got to hide. I've got to run away. My life is threatened. I got to hide in the temple. I got to take refuge there, because who knows what'll happen. God sometimes says no. Sometimes he doesn't protect me." And he very well could have done that, but he didn't. Instead, Nehemiah was like, wait a minute. Should a man like me, the leader of my people, show cowardice in the face of threats? Should I really use the temple of God as a means of protecting my life, when, if anything, I should just be rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem in order to protect the temple? He's like, what? This doesn't make any sense. I will not go. And the fact that Nehemiah did that, to me, that just shows courage, and that shows like a real strong faith in God, to the point where he's like, Nehemiah's like, you know what, I'm going to be okay. God's going to take care of me. He's not going to let me get, killed by these people. And as it turns out, it was the right decision, because the real purpose of Tobiah and Sanballat was to lure Nehemiah into the temple, so that it would look like he was a coward, and demean all the work that was being done. But since Nehemiah, once again, stood his ground, that didn't happen. Instead, Nehemiah stood strong, and I guarantee you, it doesn't really talk about it necessarily in the book, as far as how the fellow Israelites viewed Nehemiah's actions, but I'm willing to bet that they were like, hey, Nehemiah, this guy's got my back, I've got his. He was strong, he didn't run away, he didn't take privilege in his power, he stood firm. And so I'm willing to bet that went over well, which was exactly what Sanballat and Tobiah did not want to happen. And I have one more passage to discuss, but I will say, the rest of Nehemiah is, it's not, I shouldn't just brush over it, because there's all this stuff about the Israelites. They're confessing their sins because they've done wrong. They've betrayed God so many times. Basically, what is happening in the books of Ezra and Nehemiah is a religious revival. The Israelites are coming back to God because they have betrayed him so many times, and they have reaped the consequences of their actions, and they now realize that they really can't do anything without him. And so they're bending the knee in humility and saying, hey God, we all deserve to die, and yet you show mercy on us. Thank you. We repent of our actions. We will do our best to not commit them again. Perhaps we who live in America and in all of Western civilization, maybe we need to really consider whether or not we need to repent, write all our wrongs down, humble ourselves, bend the knee, and recognize that we are not worthy of all the things that we've so generously been given. If we did that, then I think things would get significantly better in a very vast manner. And perhaps that will happen. I don't know. At the time of this recording, it's the middle of 2020. And so things are very uncertain. And I think we're in a similar spot to where Israel was before Nehemiah, where, you know, we have right now a time to, come to our senses and really get down to the bottom of things and really look at things that are important, like read the Bible, read other religious books, read the things that have been written down that have lasted for thousands of years, and really try and figure out what is what. We have that opportunity right now. And if we all did that, then we would be lifted out of this crisis. But I don't know. I don't know if that's what's going to happen. I think that perhaps people are hell-bent on living to their own way and not really serving any moral king of any sort. And we may end up, in total annihilation, destruction, then someday be, built up from the ashes of our stupidity. But I don't know. We're at a turning point. Yeah, so there's my little spiel about basically the rest of Nehemiah, except for this one passage that I'm going to talk about right now. Nehemiah chapter 13, verses 1 to 3. On that day, the book of Moses was read aloud in the hearing of the people, and there it was found written that no Ammonite or Moabite should ever be admitted into the assembly of God, because they had not met the Israelites with food and water, but had hired Balaam to call a curse down on them. Our God, however, turned the curse into a blessing. When the people heard this law, they excluded from Israel all who were of foreign descent. It sounds like the Israelites were racist and justified it because of past squabbles with the Ammonites and Moabites. And there's a way you can read that and think that, because of foreign descent. I don't really think it's really talking about skin color, because whenever you read, for instance, in Deuteronomy chapter 23, verses 3 through 5, or Deuteronomy chapter 10 through 18, or Numbers 15 and 16, Isaiah 42:6, all you see throughout the Bible and throughout the Old Testament that God actually does welcome foreigners and does value them and doesn't hate them. I mean, there's all these verses about, hey, treat an alien to the best of your ability, so that they can proclaim my name everywhere. There's all these verses like that. And so I really don't, even though it says foreign descent, I don't think it's talking about race. I really think it's more like culture, because the Ammonites and the Moabites had a history with the Israelites regarding the fact that they would marry the Israelites and then would lead the Israelites to worship other gods and to do horrible practices and make horrible sacrifices and all this stuff. I really think it's just saying, don't marry anybody that's not of the same, who doesn't carry the same moral compass as us. Anyone who is foreign to that, who is foreign to our customs and foreign to our ways. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, those are my thoughts on Nehemiah. I thought it was a really, really interesting book that really painted a great picture of a great leader, and I personally got a lot out of it. I admire the strength of Nehemiah as he faced his challenges, and I think that you, in case you haven't read the book, will also get that out of the book. However, if you have read Nehemiah, please, in the comment section below, let me know what you thought of Nehemiah, and golly, I always burp in these videos, but it's just who I am. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, please like this video and subscribe. Tell your friends about the channel. And never forget to